Welcome to Authors in Espresso. I'm your host, Nadia Gilks, and today we have Tiana T, a licensed marriage and family therapist, speaker, and Amazon best-selling author, whose work sits at the intersection of faith, mental health, and autism parenting. She's also the mother of a nonverbal autistic son, and much of her writing comes from lived experience, not just theory. Tiana is the author of A Seat on the Couch series and her newest book, What? A 90-Day Devotional for When Life Changes Everything. The devotional is designed for those moments when life flips upside down, whether through a diagnosis, loss, or unexpected transition, and offers readers a path to grounding, reflection, and healing. Today, we're talking about navigating life's what moments, the lessons autism parenting can teach us about communication and advocacy, and her philosophy of grace over grind, which reminds us that rest is not a reward, it's a strategy. Tiana, welcome to Authors in Espresso. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Nadia.
So, as I have done in the past, I already have some audience questions. So I wanted to start with that to kind of set a foundation because it is about your parenting journey of an autistic son. So is it okay if I start with those?
Yes, please.
So one question that I received is for parents who are listening to this podcast, what are some early warning signs that they can look for that there may be a diagnosis within their child that the doctor hasn't discovered yet?
Yes. I know for myself, hindsight is always 2020. So there were some signs that I didn't know were signs, um, even being a first-time mom. So my son, when he was about 5 months and sitting up, he was really early with meeting his milestones. When we would play the game, like rolling the ball back and forth, he would actually do this, like, winding of his hands when he was waiting. And for myself as well as my family members and his dad, we just thought it was like this cute thing that he did. However, I learned later on that that was actually an early sign of autism. He also started walking very early. He was a day before turning 10 months when he started walking. And one thing that he liked to do was walk backwards or like the toe walking. And again, that just was something that we were like, oh, okay, he likes to do. And we learned later on that that was an early sign. For me, the first sign of like, oh, I think something is going on was a regression in speech where he was saying a few words like ball, dog. He was saying his name around 1.5 years old, and then nothing, no words at all. And that's when I was like, okay, something is going on, and I wanted to get him assessed.
And in the Black and Brown communities, often there is this stigma on either a diagnosis or autism itself. How do we work to shift the narrative so that people are more understanding when this is a parent's journey?
Yes. The stigma is still there. And I, as a Black mother raising a Black son. I remember when I found out that I was getting ready to birth a son and I was pregnant in 2020. Um, George Floyd had just happened and the whole country was in an uproar. And I remember my mom, as well as my husband at the time, True's dad, had made me promise to limit me watching the news when I was pregnant with True because I was so concerned about what it was going to be just raising a Black son in the United States at this time. And then having to now face what it was going to be like raising a son with different abilities, knowing that in the history of this country, just the color of our skin and being a man has its own stipulations and its own traumas, obstacles. And then you have, again, these other labels, fears, objections that the medical field in itself can bring, that history has shown us. It is normal, and I wanna, like, normalize that fear, that anxiety, that apprehension that families may have to then bring their children to some of these doctors to even start the process. I think that it's normal, and it's that instinct of wanting to protect. With that being said, using the discernment and finding those communities of care that feel safe to be able to get our children the care that they deserve and need, because early intervention will help them more than hurt them, I will say. Yes, we know that in this world, not everyone will have the best intentions for our kids, and that is the truth, even though it hurts to say. With that being said, early intervention is the key to support.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine during that time, you're watching the news on George Floyd, the pandemic has hit, you have all these other things going on, the anxiety, and I've always said, like, if I had a Black child at this point, especially a son, I'd probably be looking for another country because I just don't trust. Um, Trying to get a child to 18 in this climate, it's hard. When it comes to advocating and sitting down for the IEP meetings, how can parents navigate? Because I'm finding a lot of parents don't even know their rights at the table. So, how can parents advocate for their children?
Yes, it's challenging having to do your own research. I remember my first IEP, maybe even my second one, not really knowing, choose my one and only. So going in and thinking again that these folks will have your best intentions at heart, that they're going to come and be very forthcoming about the services and what's out there. And you find that some in the meetings will be like, okay, this is what we can do. And there's others that are truly just there because this is their job. And it's like, all right, let's move these papers around and we're gonna do the bare minimum. And I learned very quickly that, oh, okay, I'm going to have to learn really quickly, like, how to be my son's best advocate. So, doing a lot of my own research, getting involved in more of the parent support groups outside of the school district, asking more questions to parents who have children who are a little older than true, who have been a part of this process a little longer than I have, to ask about their experiences, asking what their goals are like in their IEP meetings. And then because I know my kiddo the best, making sure that I get those goals to match where I want them to be for him. So I want them to be challenging enough, but also scaffold. Like I want there to be steps. So we have this huge goal that's really shiny, that's gonna be challenging enough, but what are the steps? What are the gonna be our milestones to get him to the big goal there? And making sure that I kinda check them, "Okay, let me see the progress there. Where's the data points here?" I wanna make sure I advocate and ask for OT and all these different service occupational therapy, ABA services, speech therapy, and if they say no, okay, well, then why are you saying no? Well, what are the data points? Did you guys do a full assessment? No, this isn't a full assessment. This is just an evaluation. Why isn't a full assessment done? And asking more of these questions. It sometimes feels like a fight. And there are those days where I'm just like, I am so tired of fighting. Why do I just have to fight for the basic needs that my son deserves? And naming those things.
Yeah.
I'm a huge supporter of accountability. So I go into those meetings and say, "Hey, you all say in this school district that this is your mission and your vision, and this is what you all are doing. I feel like there's some misalignment here with what you all are doing and what you say your mission and vision is. Let's talk about that."
I love that. Bring them to the table and make them answer the hard questions. And you have to sit there and be your child's biggest cheerleader, biggest advocate, because leaving it to the hands of the teachers and the administrators, it just may not happen. I don't know if this is your experience, but I did get this question. Have you had any experience with the functional behavioral assessment? And if so, can you guide parents on how to obtain that for their child?
Yes. So in the school district as well as insurance, there's 2 different ways in which you can do this. And the school district, actually, True just recently had one because he's getting ready for his transition to kindergarten. For True, he was born in the middle of September, so he missed that cutoff. In our school district, you have to be 5 before September 1st. So he's going to kindergarten at 6. So he just had to have like the big assessment, and there was some pushback there because of the way in which you're trying to diagnose him with these extra diagnoses that I did not agree with. One being intellectual disabilities and such on top of autism. And I'm like, I don't really see that diagnosis. And then also being a marriage and family therapist, having that background with diagnosing in the DSM-5 myself, I'm like, oh, he doesn't really fit this criteria here. Also in your reports, like, again, because I'm asking, you can ask for those reports beforehand, before the IEP meeting, so you can review them and be prepared before the IEP meeting going in. You say that there were limitations when you weren't able to really sit with him and do all of this, so how can you actually give a diagnosis when you really weren't able to do what you needed to do to give a full evaluation? Asking all these questions, you just wanna give him more labels. I'm not okay with that. We already know when it comes to Black and brown children, they're more likely to give more labels that will stick with them for their whole entire lives, that and misdiagnose. So having to be on them about that piece as well. Um, so pushing and say, "Hey, this isn't right." Knowing that a lot of the criteria and such weren't even set up to there's racial bias, even in the way that a lot of the tests were set up. Some of the tests, there are those cultural implications, but not all. So having that conversation, say, how is this considered? Or for example, with autism and how my kiddo presents, if he doesn't necessarily know you and has that relationship with you, he's not likely to sit down and work with you because that trust is not set up. So I don't want to build a tower with you because I actually don't know you and I don't feel comfortable. So if it's just one person on a one-off time coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna work with you," that's really not going to work for him also. However, on the insurance side, where it might be his occupational therapist who he has a relationship with and has been working with, or his speech therapist who he has been working with for 3 years at this point, they're able to have a working relationship, can see him a little bit longer, can speak more in depth. Again, this speaks to early intervention, building that relationship, and why, again, it's so important for us as parents to be those advocates and not be as afraid to start developing those relationships and just trying it out, dipping your toe, and being okay to say, "Okay, this person, my kid really don't like you. I notice every time he come in here, he cry, he kick you and scream, and he doesn't do that with everyone. So it must not be a good fit. Let's try a different provider or take a break from these type of services." When it comes to the supports of a functional behavioral assessment, when it's done correctly, it can give you a huge blueprint of the different type of supports the kiddo needs, the different strengths they have, and how to build on those.
Yeah. I love it when I see the parents who have this thick binder and they have been tracking everything because I know they're super on top of it because what you said is so important. And it's really the common human behavior, but just on a magnified scale because there is that different ability. Like most of us, somebody that we worked with for 20 years and done lunch with and have a great rapport, we're going to interact differently with them than we do this new boss that just came in and now we got to fill each other out. And so I think it's so important to have every assessment and report that parents can get their hands on so people can say it's not just what I'm saying, although the parent has spent the most time with them, so they can say, well, he doesn't do this at home. He can meet these benchmarks at home, but this is how he is with this doctor or this therapist. They aren't having these issues either. So let's work on your relationship. I think that's so important. So the next question is probably going to segue into your book, but what are some tools, resources, tips that you can give to parents who are approaching burnout or to help them curb burnout? Because it does take a lot more time, energy, anxiety to navigate this world for a child who has different learning abilities.
Yes. It's very important to acknowledge where you are and say, I'm burnt out or I'm getting to my wits' end. That's the first step. And just, okay, giving yourself that grace to fall apart. Just like our child sometimes has those meltdowns, sometimes we have to schedule it in our calendar to have our own little meltdown ourselves. Rather if that's as soon as they get off to school, we go home and like, "All right, I have 30 minutes to just not cry right now," or whatever we need to do, go out there and throw dirt. However, we just need to healthily get that out of our bodies, we truly have to do that for ourselves. Lay down and zonk out and forget all of the 30,000 things we have on our to do list because truly we have to put ourselves at the top of our to do list. Everything, our little ones, our job, the laundry, the dinner, all that we do flows through us. Therefore, we are the common denominator out of all of those things. So it's important that we take care of ourselves because without us, none of those things are going to get taken care of.
When I got a mentor a little over a year ago, the first thing that he had me do before we got into the nuts and bolts of my role, he said, sit down right now and block out a 2 hour time every week of me time and do something that is not related to this organization at all. And it's hard, but there's time on the calendar, even if it's like, okay, I'm not going to sit down on the couch this moment and watch TV. I'm actually going to like do a hobby or a craft or take a walk. Just having that dedicated me time that is yours and that you set the boundary around, it is so mentally healing. And I think with your book, you also give us some tangible tools as well. So, what journey are readers going on in your new book? What?
Yes. It truly is a journey. And in the book, we go through three different phases over the 90 days. The first phase, the first 30 days, is acknowledgement over what are the what's, the seasons that we feel like broke us or, turned our lives upside down. The second season being to attend to what now has it been? Like, okay, I'm in the middle of it. Kinda like, okay, I'm in the burnout now. Like, I'm in the trying to figure out now that the pottery has broken, where are all the pieces? It's scattered, and I'm trying to figure it all out and just put it back together now. And doing those things truly is its own journey. In the third phase, let me just go ahead and name it after we have acknowledged and we've attended to it. Now we're trying to align everything back together and say, okay, getting out of I gotta get back to normal because that's not gonna happen. But what now is my new normal, right? And that's the okay, what now is my life gonna look like? Okay, what's the 2 hours gonna look like? Okay, maybe I can't get a full 2 hour chunk all together, but can I get 15 minutes here and 15 minutes here and 15 minutes here, right? To make it 2 hours in 1 week. Those things. So I love this devotional because truly it's been healing for me. As a therapist, my training has been be a blank slate. You show up for your client. So I feel like with what it also was a rebirth for me being more vulnerable with the world in my more professional and personal life in showing up in all the intersections that I do. And truly, that is healing in itself, just to be able to show up as we are and not have to say, oh, how are you? Oh, I'm good, as we are usually trained to do, because some days we're not. And truly just giving ourselves that opportunity to acknowledge how we're actually doing is healing in itself. Being able to get that support from others and move.
Absolutely. And you said something really important, and I think that's a lot of people's fear. Because, like you mentioned, whether it is a diagnosis or something happening with your child, or you lost your job or your home or what have you, whatever that transition period is, although things can be better down the road and maybe it could be better than it was before, not knowing what to expect and being afraid of that new normal, I think that's what stops a lot of people from moving forward. What are some of the tips or resources that you give to people to get to that new normal and be okay with it?
Mhm. The fear of the unknown is a real thing. And when we get comfortable of just like, okay, this might be on fire, but I know how to navigate it. So I'd rather just do what I know to do. But it could be better on the other side. Nothing's on fire over there. Possibly, you know? We could just see.
Yeah.
So it's take that risk. It may be worth it just to take the risk. Breathe that in. You don't have to just settle for the thing that is in flames or has been engulfed in flames, and recognize that that usually comes from us settling for a scarcity or poverty mindset that we've been sold, that it's not going to get better, so you just have to sacrifice for what you have now.
And who would you say this book is for? Who is the ideal reader?
The ideal reader is for those who have been through those life transitions that have made you feel stuck, or that you feel like I can't, I keep ending up in this same spot of brokenness. I keep ending up in this same spot that makes me feel stuck, that I'm never going to get out of, or that you feel like you are starting to identify as woe is me, or as that person who is never going to get out of a situation. I name in the book a few of my what seasons around like my divorce, my son's diagnosis, and even some of my own traumas of people trying to take advantage of me, where I felt like, am I now is this now my life? Like, have I now been labeled as loss of womanhood? Like, am I less feminine now because this has happened to me? Or do I now need to live in this bubble of fear? And it's like, no, I don't want that now to be my life. How do I move out of this cycle? How do I now move out of this season or this feeling of brokenness, or what felt like being identified as lost? Like, I don't want this to be mine or my son's, truly.
And you did use a lot of personal experience to nurture this book. Was there any particular part that was difficult for you to write?
Hmm. I'll probably say the hardest or the most difficult piece to write was about uh, like previous assaults. I was carjacked at 17. And there were a couple of times where, folks took advantage of me. And those probably were the hardest, however, the most rewarding to write about. And I'll say it was more rewarding after I released it, because I was able to get it out of my body. And I felt that it no longer had a hold on me. I felt that the longer I kept it in, that it was just in my head, like, "Yeah, I still got you. I'm still a stronghold. You can't even talk about this, see?" However, to talk about it, it gave me space to process it in a different way. and also to get feedback from readers about how it landed for them, what has been very rewarding as well.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of writing because people don't know whose hands their book will fall into, but there's someone who is probably going through what you've been through, and to see somebody who has made it on the other side and is doing okay, you give them a blueprint to thrive and navigate. And I think a part of what you said, processing it and getting it out of your body, that's really the core of therapy.
Yes.
Many people are afraid of therapy and they don't know what to expect, but that is the point. If you've gone through something traumatic and you get to a point where you can talk about it without those emotions coming up, without crying or without feeling the anxiety in your body, like you have to work that through and then out of your system. So I think that's so important. So I know that this book will help a lot of people to do that and maybe even lead them to therapy. And what I love about your experience is that it's not just a book. You also have a group session along with the book that people can enter into. So tell us about those group sessions that go with what?
Yes. So, in alignment with the book, which the book gives you the 90 days that you can work through, the experience is what I'm calling the the accountability group gives you 12 weeks and it's 6 you get 6 biweekly Zoom calls with a small group. I'm keeping it intimate and capping it. It's like a cohort system, and it gives you that accountability group so that you can come. We go through those 3 phases, so we're not going through like day 1, day 2. However, we're talking about how it is to acknowledge our what's in our life, what it means to really attend to those things, and how we align to what now is coming out of those things, and what now is new, our new normal after we've had these seasons and these wet moments in our lives. So folks can get the book. You can join the group and learn more about it on my website. I'm loving that the first cohort is starting March 30th. However, the next cohort will be beginning in June. So people can get on my email list and so that they can figure out which cohort they want to join after they get the book and start the process as well.
So do they have to have completed the book and then you're coming into the group session going through the works, or is it really going alongside the book?
Absolutely not. So you can get the book and start the sessions together. I would say you at least want to get the book and be have started at least in phase 1 and go through it there that way.
I love that. And the website is Tiana I am TianaT.com.
Exactly.
I am Tiana TianaTee.com.
That's it.
Um, and before we wrap up, I do love to give attention to all of people's works. So you also have a series, A Seat on the Couch. Do you also want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. I think, it's my first baby. So, I will always have a special place for a seat on the couch. And truly, I'm going to tell the story of how a seat on the couch came. This is pre COVID. And I was sitting in my office that I had at the time after I finished seeing clients. And I'm like, there are people that need therapy who will never pick up the phone and call to say, "Hey, I want to have a session." And specifically thinking about Black and brown folks. And I'm like, "Lord, how am I going to reach these people? How am I going to connect with them?" And literally start writing books. So I'm like, "Okay, then COVID happens. I'm like, "How what is this? What is this?" True's literally like maybe 2 or 3 months at this time, and a friend of mine who started her own publishing company, starts a group, "Let's write your first book together," or something. I'm just like, "Oh, wow, okay, let me join this group." And A Seat on the Couch, Maya's story, which is my first book, a part of the series, is birth. So they are urban fiction novels that you follow characters, everyday people. However, in the book, you just might get some tidbits and nuggets about mental health. Maya, she works in an office. She has this really nasty boss who just likes to gawk at her and says little gross things throughout the day, sexual harassment galore. However, she has an amazing best friend who is just like, I really think you should probably seek therapy. And, Maya has these panic attacks and she loves music. So she turns her music up really loud when she has to pull over on the side of the street when she has these panic attacks to try to calm herself down. And, you're just walking alongside her and you figure out her life. And lo and behold, she ends up going to see Dr. Leslie, who is a therapist in the Bay Area. And you follow her in her process and what it's like. And my second book in the series, you learn about Mike, who is the big brother protector over his sister, who also has a daughter. His sister is a raging alcoholic and uses drugs, and he's like, "Listen, I'm trying to live right. I just got out of jail, but my sister in her ways and this boyfriend that she got is trying me in all these kind of ways." And his probation officer is coming around, is like, "Are you doing what you're supposed to do?" And he's trying to live right, and he's trying to take care of the niece now. But, so you walk alongside him and the probation officer is like, "No, you need to go see this this therapist is a part of your plan." And he really doesn't want to do it, but he's doing it. But also is in his mind just like, I can't get right. Like, is it best that I'm here? Should I just be gone? So real life folks that people can see themselves in and truly that we can learn something from in these books. I'm working on
Oh,
the third one
these are
now.
definitely relatable. Oh,
Right?
when is the 3rd one expected?
I don't have a date yet. However, I, I love this series. I love writing these books, and I'm excited. I know also that I'm working on. I feel like I'm always working on like 2 or 3 things at once.
Yeah.
you know, I'm working also on a book about True, my son, and I feel like that one will come out first and this fall. That one will be named What My Awesome Son Taught Me About an Awesome God. And I spell awesome
Wow.
AUESOME, like autism.
Aw, that's cute.
So I'm excited about that one as well. So there's a lot of things in the making that will be
So that
coming out
sounds
later
like
this
it's
year.
a little more of a memoir form? Well, we'll have you back again when your next works come out. I can't wait for all of it. I love a series. I love relatable characters. And it sounds like in that all roads lead to therapy. So hopefully people are seeing themselves in the situations and saying, okay, maybe that is the missing key that will help me through. And
Mhm.
I'm sure that people will get a lot from your memoir as well. So that's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that as well. So I want to make sure that people know all the ways to reach you. Is there social media that you wanna share or just the website?
Yeah, so on the website is one way, and also you can find me on Facebook, Instagram at I am Tiana T. I'm also on LinkedIn at Tiana T as well. So find me. Let's link up.
I love that. And before we go, I'm starting something new. So if someone sat down for a cup of coffee with you tomorrow, what would be the top topic that you would wanna discuss with them?
Let's talk about what you are doing today to take care of yourself because you matter.
That I love that. They're leaving you with the message. And on your website, can people also meet with you if they want your therapy services?
Yes. Mhm.
And you are licensed in California. Any other states?
I'm licensed in California as a therapist. However, if you want consultation or coaching, that is worldwide.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Authors and Espresso. It has been a pleasure to have you. I know so many people are going to take a lot of great nuggets away from this. So I really appreciate your time, your expertise, and your lived experience. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.